And he's like, all hail Georgia. Georgia will smash Russia. Russia's the devil.
And we're not talking about the state that houses Atlanta. We're talking about Georgia and southern Russia.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They're on the Black Sea. And I know right away, that person doesn't like me because I reported that it was a U.S., Israeli, NATO-backed sneak attack on South Ossetia to kick off a new Cold War. And so, but think about his flawed logic. I'm a Fed because I am against the U.S., Israel, and NATO starting a new Cold War. If I was a Fed, I'd be going with their policies. But he makes the instant decision. He knows there's a new world order, so he has to then make me the bad new world order. Look, I'm no fan of Putin. I'm no fan of a lot of things going on in Russia. The whole point is I know the globalists have this master game. Their policy is to start a war with Russia, to start new conflicts, so I'm against that. Just like I'm not weighing in on the Serb Muslim Crow outside. I just know that the UN went in, used Arabs to attack the Serbs, got the Serbs to move in, and then went in and blew Serbia away. So, again, I'm finding that everybody that attacks me has a little reason because they're tribal and they think I'm criticizing their little group when no, everybody would be better off if the New World Order wasn't stirring up regional conflicts and wars. But that's my point, is that I can link through on somebody's name and look at their page, and then it's always right there why they don't like me.
Right.
But
the thing is, they need to look up. They need to get the bigger picture.
I'm not against Georgia.
No.
I'm not like, I want to destroy Georgia. I mean, most Georgians aren't glad that they got in that war.
And in the Clinton years, in the Kosovo, by the way, the Kosovo Liberation Army was the group that we were supporting. And how were we supporting it? Because we were allowing Al-Qaeda to supply arms and training to the Kosovo Liberation Army.
Exactly. It's simple.
And in return, we let them do their drug smuggling through the Balkans. Now, this is all documented, but people don't get told this. They don't know this. All they do is listen to the establishment media, and then they think, oh, well, it's this way, and they get totally dragged down into conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, yada, yada, yada. You got to look up, folks. You got to look up and see the big picture, and you got to see who's really running the show. You got to look behind the mask. That's why I've got to compliment you on your new Obama deception, because it is a deception. Okay, and I know people who say, well, I've met Obama, he's a very nice guy. Well, I know people who said they met George W. Bush, and he's a really nice guy. And I don't know personally either one of those fellas, so I'll say maybe they're telling me the truth. But what you and I know, and what we're trying to tell people is, they're just little puppets. They're front people. They're just talking heads that we see on the television, and their whole persona is carefully crafted, right? They are creations of the media. Ronald Reagan, we were all told what a fine family man. He went to church every Sunday and, da-da-da. And then after he's out of office, we find out that he never went to church. He had family problems, dysfunctional family, and his wife was consulting astrologers, So these are just little scenarios crafted by the corporate media and everybody thinks that's the way it is. And when you try to tell them it's not, then they get mad at you.
Absolutely. You've got some other little interesting things to go over there. What's that little chart you got?
Well, this is a chart of how the organic food industry has been brought in under and bought up by the major agriculture food corporations, Heinz, Coca-Cola, Kellogg, Cargill.
Take your time. Go over that.
Okay. Well, no. The reason I think everybody, especially if you're into health food or if you're into the food industry or if you're a farmer or know anything about it, you already know that agribusiness is where it's at and that it's all tied so closely in with the corporate food thing. What I want to tell you about is H.R. 875, which is legislation now pending in Congress. It's known as the Food Safety Modernization Act, and people need to take a close look at this. And I'll be frank, I have not looked at it even this close, but I know that just from what I've seen and by glancing over some of the paragraphs and some of the clauses in this proposed legislation, essentially it's going to mean you can't have a garden. Because they are going to throw so much stuff at you, you got to show where it's coming from and what it contains and everything else. And it's going to criminalize growing a garden. It's absolutely amazing. During World War II, of course, we were all encouraged to grow gardens. We were going to have victory gardens, right? And well, here we are. We're in a war on drugs and a war on poverty and a war on terrorism. You know, you think they'd say, let's grow gardens. But no, this legislation passed, the Food Safety Modernization Act. It's going to leave food production and preparation up to the giant corporations, and they can use this to just shut down small farms and even your own little private garden. And you can see this happening all over and then, of course, we have the Holt bill, which I'm sure you've already talked about, which is the gun control thing. And you mentioned that earlier. It's going to criminalize everybody that owns a gun is what it's going to do. And another thing, I didn't hear you mention this, is that it's going to call for voluntary physicals and psychological profiling, not profiling, but psychological testing.
No, it's involuntary. Every gun owner has to do it.
You've got to be able to own your gun. Okay, now, can you picture this? Okay, Mr. Jones, do you believe 9/11 was an inside job? Well, yes, there's evidence. Well, we think you need further psychological.
They've already said that's a mental illness.
Well, yeah, it's an evil government syndrome. Somebody came up with that.
Let me go over a key point here, and I want you to cover this. We know the feds come in with the $787 million stimulus package that I call the federalization package. Mm-hmm. And what they did in that is they come into the counties and cities, this is on record, and they say, we want you to make people be licensed to have a garden because they may grow marijuana. And you can't have, imagine free people, we're prisoners.
Right.
Imagine we're guilty until proven innocent. We can't have a garden. So here is the Tulsa News. Now, this is Tulsa World. Tulsa City Council questions community gardens, and he goes on to say community gardens, citizen gardens. How do we know what these people are going to be growing? Vegetables? Maybe there'll be something else, he said. Is there going to be someone who inspects what is growing? And so he wants police to come in and inspect your gardens. Now, they're bulldozing them all over the country. They're getting rid of them. That's being federally pushed.
No, I'll tell you who's pushing that are the giant food corporations.
Well, no, exactly. Animal ID,
because,
premises ID
right.
is all about shutting them down. They admit that. Big Agger wrote it. But listen to this. This is a town in New York. It says, mayor considers options, martial law over political woes. Albany County, same place. Martial law, they said troops. Notice we heard Blagojevich before he got kicked out saying, I'm going to have National Guard statewide doing gun sweeps in the neighborhoods because of crime. We're now hearing all these governors, all these county commissioners, mayors saying, we want troops, we want troops. Oh, there's a shooting in Alabama, regular Army troops. Then, in Albany County, local law number A, 2009, anyone who goes and purchases ammo will be registered when they purchase it. A local law for the County of Albany, New York, regulating the purchase of ammunition in the County of Albany. And it's going to be up on prisonplanet.com here very soon. Paul Watson's doing an article. And it says, being enacted by the county. And again, we happen to know that these locals are in a beta test with Obama through the stimulus money to do this. And so they're saying, you want the money, you got to do this to start the precedent. This is happening nationwide in all these towns and cities, registering guns and ammo.
Well, let's look at the flip side of this. People are going to say, well, what can I do about this? Well, here's what you can do about it. We need to take control back at the local level. I believe it's in Montana, a county in Montana, where the local sheriff, who is the highest law enforcement official under the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, has publicly sent notice to federal officials that if they violate the Constitution of the United States, that his deputies would escort them to the county line because they were no longer welcome in that county. This is the type of activity we've got to start moving to. You've got to gain control over your local representatives and over you. But what's happened is over the years with all this money and now with everything under Homeland Security and with billions of dollars of our tax money flowing down into the hands of local officials, they're buying them up, okay? And they're saying, okay, now here's what you need to do and do this or we're going to cut you off with the funds.
That's what I wanted you to comment on. So when you hear about them going after your guns, going after your gardens, suddenly all over the country they're raiding Amish for milk, they're for cheese, people for eggs, watermelons. Cops are pulling up and saying you can't sell eggs on the side of the road. They've been ordered to do this. They are shutting as they implode the economy. We were 90% rural in the Great Depression, 7 million starved to death according to big university studies that came out last year. So instead of now 10% are rural, only half of those are self-sufficient. We've gone from 90% self-sufficient to 5% self-sufficient with 10% on the land.
And they're shutting them down.
And so they're shutting them down. As the UN has said in official documents, 97 Beijing, China population summit, They will use food as a weapon. And so they're consolidating it, the poison GMO food. The people get mad. Most of the people start buying organic food. That becomes popular. They change the standard where it doesn't have to really be organic to have USDA certification. Private groups come out with their own certifications. People go to that. And then they say, you know what? We're just shutting it all down.
That's right.
We're just, in the name of some peanut butter problem, that's big industry doing that or something, or people in Mexico crapping on the lettuce or the spinach. Again, they use that highly publicized, a few deaths or whatever, to bring in total control on the groups that are putting out the best, cleanest food.
That's exactly right. And now they're shutting down. Our last hope, of course, is firearms. You go back and you read all the writings in the Federalist Papers. You read the writings of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington. They all made it very clear that the purpose of possessing firearms has nothing to do with hunting or sportsmanship or anything else. It has the right to protect yourself from a tyrannical government.
Stay there. We're going to come back from break.